I'm also going to put the QR code in there as well, and if you
Okay.
just want to use it to scan. So, all right.
At the end of the meeting, we've got a surprise gift for everybody that is attending, so be sure to stay tuned for that. In the meeting chat, we've got a link to our meeting pulse that has several questions from our last session in February, and we've got some discussion going on there. You know, how do you deal with burnout? How can we self-promote? Dealing with sexism across cultures and how to deal with cultural bias. So there's a lot of different conversations going on there on that meeting pulse, and we've got the link in the chat if you want to join that conversation there. We'll give people some more time to join in. Welcome everybody and happy International Women's Day. Good morning, Shelley.
Good morning. How's everyone today? And happy International Women's Day. I'm so excited to just have a day to recognize the accomplishments of women throughout history.
Absolutely. I've been looking on LinkedIn recently at the different posts that people have out for International Women's Day, and you know, a lot of the themes you see are we need to not just spend this day recognizing women, but also spend this day analyzing the other 364 days of the year. What do we do to ensure that women are properly represented and you know, supported in a work and cultural environment? So it's really great to see those conversations happening.
Have you
Shannon, do
seen
we
a,
want to? Oh, go ahead, Shelley.
my apologies. I was just going to ask if any quote just stood out to you or anything stood out to you.
There were several that stood out for me. I'm trying to find. One was from Rochelle Honsamard. I'm probably butchering her name, but you know, International Women's Day is not a day to thank the women in your teams for existing via a photo that shows you have women on your team on social media. It's a day to look at what you need to do to better to, you know, regarding their well-being and fulfillment in your business and how your business can improve the status of women in your industry. You know, a lot of the comments are women need to be themselves and not try to be what they think the room wants them to be, you know, comfortable there, because we bring a lot of value just being ourselves. So we need to embrace that more.
Here, here. Focusing on our uniqueness and the beauty, the creativity, the diversity, the uniqueness we all bring.
Absolutely.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no. Shannon, I'll let you kind of direct when we're ready to start, do you think?
Okay. Let's see. Let me look and see how many people we have online. We have 33, and we had 63, I believe, register. So, let's give it a minute, one more minute. So it would be like 5 after, and then then I think it'd be a good time for you to start.
That works. I want to thank everybody for spending your time with me this morning. It's exciting to see so many people really interested in this group and what we're representing. So I'm really encouraged by all the conversations and stuff that we saw and had on our last meeting. So I think that this is going to be a really good time. Give people a few more minutes to join in, and then we can get started with our agenda today. So if you guys have some time during the call, or even after, we do have a meeting pulse link where we've got several questions posted out there and some discussions happening around those. So go check that out. Oh, Shannon, I think you're
I
muted.
am on mute.
Bingo.
I will be recording this meeting just to let everybody know. So once we start, I'll start the recording.
I think we can go ahead and get started now. We're about 6 minutes after. All right.
All right. All yours, Jennifer.
All right. Do you want to present the slides?
Yeah, can you see them?
Let's see. Oh, there they are. Yep. All right.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. Perfect.
So again, welcome everybody to our second Women in IT call. I am very excited to host this on International Women's Day. It's fantastic to get everybody together and really validate and understand the universal struggles and challenges and successes that we have in, you know, a tech environment, a work environment, and a social environment. So today we have a couple fantastic speakers that are going to be joining us to kind of talk about their journey in the tech environment, how they got to where they are. A lot of us, the path to where we are right now was not a straight line. We've taken a lot of different journeys, and you know, where we started wasn't necessarily where we anticipated being right now. But you know, this environment, this tech environment that we're in, really needs our influence and our help. So listening to everybody talk about the similar routes that they took to get to where they're at right now is really interesting. International Women's Day, they have a theme every year, and this year the theme is embrace equity. So what they mean by embracing equity is to willingly and enthusiastically accept and adopt the understanding that each person has different circumstances, that we must allocate specific resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome. And this really resonates with me because we are all in different places in our life. We all have different experiences. We all have different environmental factors and emotional factors that affect what we do every day. And as a business entity, being able to understand where people are coming from and meet them and meet those needs is really important and really vital to having a successful and thriving business. So, just being able to embrace that equity and that understanding that we all do start and have different needs, and meeting those needs is really important. So the fact that International Women's Day is highlighting that is really just a fantastic call out for them. So this morning, as I said, we've got some amazing speakers that are going to be joining us. First up is Lana Soche. She is the Avanti Data Protection Officer. And we also have Shelly Wright with us this morning, who is the Senior Director, PMO, and Corporate Strategy for Avanti. So I'm really excited to have these ladies with us today and have a little bit of a chat and get a little bit of more understanding of how they got to where they are today, some of the struggles that they've had and how they've overcome those. So I think that this is going to be a really great conversation. So welcome to both of you. Lana, if you could kind of introduce yourself and tell us what it is that you do with Avanti to just kind of give us a highlight.
I am Lana Soche, and I am Avanti's Data Protection Officer. And what I do is make sure that Avanti is handling personal data, specifically personal data, appropriately and according to relevant privacy laws and regulations. It's a little different from security, where security does all types of data, including non-personal data. And so my focus really is on just the personal data.
So what are 2 or 3 facts about your day-to-day role that some people might be surprised of?
I don't think that most people realize how much research privacy requires. I spend a lot of time reading lots of different types of information, and that's the other thing that I think people don't realize is the breadth of privacy. So I'm reading about regulations, I'm reading about technologies, I'm reading about social movements and how they're using them. I'm reading about children and their rights, and events, because they all impact the way personal data is consumed and handled. And then I think another really surprising aspect for many of the people here at Avanti, and sometimes even with our partners and customers, is that I'm actually concerned about employee data as well. There's an automatic assumption that my job revolves around customer data, and well, that is a massive part of my responsibility. It is just as important as protecting our employees' data.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Shelly, same question to you. Give us a little intro into your role at Avanti, and what are a couple things that you do during your day that most people would be surprised at?
I am really excited to be here today with everyone on such a special day. So thank you for having me. My role at Avanti is Senior Director of the Program Management Office and Corporate Strategy. Overall, those are really big, fancy words for basically meaning I'm a skeleton key, a complex problem solver, a passionate learner, I'm a people and service focused leader who really assesses tools, technologies, problems, gaps, needs, and pulls together the different teams across IT, across engineering, across different internal business units to invoke change and to bring about enablement, to bring about digital transformation. And a couple fun facts about my day is I absolutely love what I do because of two things. I love innovation and technology, and I love being stuck in the middle with amazing people and bringing about positive change in my little sphere. Right? I don't influence the world. I'm not going to solve world hunger, but I bring about change to help improve processes and procedures by working with great people.
Yeah, and that's an absolutely awesome point to make. Is we want to change the world. Sometimes the best way to do that is really focus on our circle of influence and make that the most positive and sound place that we can, because that carries out, that has a fantastic ripple effect. So that's a great point. So Shelley, what how did you start in your career? Where did you start at? How did you get to where you are right now?
I was giggling when you were talking about taking the long way around into IT. I actually started with the thought that I might be a doctor. Turns out I'm a little squeamish. So clearly that didn't work out for me. But while I was working through college in data entry of all things, back in the day where service catalogs and basically people ordered mail order, I would actually key in those orders. And yes, data is a wonderful thing. I ran across a role to start doing coding, and it was an entry-level position. I took it, and I found out that I liked inventing. It was sort of creative. I don't draw, I don't paint, I have no singing ability, but I can create using technology. And that sort of led me down a circular path where I was able to move into IT, move into project management, where I help partner with different people and learn from different people to deliver. And then when we're done, I get to go move on to something else that's new and interesting. And so it's always fresh, it's always different. And that's kind of how I started and how I sort of navigated into where I am today. It was just following my passion and what looked interesting to me.
Yeah, you don't think that IT is a creative realm, but really it is. You're creating so many different things there. It's definitely it can be an art form. So yeah, that's a fantastic point. How about you, Lana? How did you start, and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, I think I have kind of a funny story. So how I got into the IT world and privacy world is actually by sheer accident. It was an inappropriate disclosure of data. I was actually in the process of leaving a company, and several months back, I had done a video interview, and that video was sent as part of a candidate roster to our CIO at the time. He was looking for an assistant, and my video was included by accident. I did not apply for the job. It should not have been part of the candidate portfolio that he was receiving. And so the HR department called me and told me that they had inappropriately disclosed my data, that the CIO wanted to meet with me anyways. And so if I was interested, and I said, well, okay. And I got the job as the CIO's assistant. And that is when I was introduced to the world of IT. About a month into working for him, he said, "Oh, our CISO needs an assistant, so I volunteered you. So now you're going to assist us both." And then working with the CISO introduced me to information security specifically, and then also the world of privacy on the security side. And that's actually how I got my start. Working with them, I realized that IT is an incredibly fun field, and it definitely is a field for people who like to be challenged daily, and your curiosity is always piqued. It's always challenged. It's a really fun, fast-moving field. And so under this CISO, I got involved in a lot of HIPAA assessments, and I just thought this privacy world is super cool. And so I started to focus on those privacy and policy pieces, governance pieces, and I knew I never wanted to go back. It's what I wanted to do.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah, it almost seems meant to be that you were going to be in this field.
I wish it had happened sooner, so I will say that.
Yeah, it took me a while to get into this field, and now that I'm here, I'm here to stay. I really enjoy the tech industry. So Lana, can you describe a time when you kind of questioned yourself in your role, and how did you overcome that?
Oh, I guess this is going to be a bit of a confession for me. Every day, something happens where I question myself and my role, because privacy touches everything. And here at Avanti, we have a huge portfolio of products, and we're a global company. And so every day I learn about something I didn't know, or that I didn't know enough about. And so it really does sometimes make me feel like, man, did I pick the right field? Is this over my depth? But then I remember how much I like to learn, and how much I really prize challenging myself and challenging others to think about things in new and innovative ways, and to apply existing concepts to new technologies, and best practices to new technologies, and how we have to revise that quote best practice to actually make it relevant to the people and the users, and the technology itself. And so that's how I overcome it on a daily basis. And again, I'm curious, and I ask a lot of questions, and I'm very nosy. And so
so just the confidence and the self-assuredness to be able to say, yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm gonna figure it out. That's something that I think we don't really acknowledge. We think, well, I don't know this, therefore it's a failure. No, it's not. It's an opportunity to learn more. So that's a fantastic point there. Shelley, how about you? What's an area where you kind of question yourself in your role, and how do you get over that?
It was wrestling with the fact that excellence and being an overachiever didn't mean I had to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
And so, Lana, just like you, I have those questions too on a daily basis. So, but not to be repetitive, I'll share a different story, but I just wanted to let you know that it's very common for at least all overachievers to want to be at the best at what we do, and when we make a hiccup, just go, am I really in the right place at the right time, sort of thing. But for me, my realization and my aha moment of just extending grace to myself happened in a telecom many years ago. So I'm going back, more than a decade. Only female executive reporting to the CIO. over quality of telecommunications services for public and private sector, as well as delivery of IT services, so to our end customers. One day I came out of a meeting with the tsunami had just happened in Taiwan. All of our hardware was late. And I came out just like shell-shocked, pondering, should I be in this role? How do I solve these problems? We need to get this hardware. The schedule's going to slip. And I sat down at my computer, and a friend sent me a study. So this tells you how much of a nerd I am. And I say that in an endearing fashion. But the study was about the human error rate that people have. So basically, human error ratio. And it said that by default, every human being has a minimum of 3% human error rate, just for basic stuff like walking and chewing gum. I was like, oh. And then her email said, so how are you using your 3% today, Shelley? And she attached the link to the study. And I was like, 3%? And I read the study, and then I finally got it, and I was like, you know, I can't foresee natural disasters. They happen. My projects and on my team are going to have to just figure out a creative solution. But understanding and accepting that mistakes will happen, I'll own up to them, I'll come up with the best solution and move forward, was really about how I overcame that self-doubt and realized that it's how we respond and accept the imperfections and those challenges that make us right for a role, whatever the role could be.
Yeah, I loved what you said, extending grace to myself. I'm going to extend some grace to myself right now because I forgot at the beginning of the meeting to do my icebreaker. So I'm going to do that right now. For those of you that are on the call, if you can put into the chat where you're from and what you do to extend grace to yourself. How do you forgive yourself for that 3% that we all have. I think as women, we want to take on all of the roles and make everything smooth, and we need to accept that's not our job. That's not our responsibility. We have this much influence, and this is what we need to take care of. Everything outside of that, we need to take that breath and understand that's outside of our influence. So we need to extend that grace to ourselves. I love that phrase. Shelley, what are some tips or advice you have to women looking to find their space in kind of that male-dominated industry? How do you make that room for yourself?
So I'm going to touch on a slightly sensitive topic of culture. I am grateful to be an American, but I wasn't born here. My original culture is very Indian, and why I raised that is it introduces a nuance to my communication style, to how I interact, how I do business, right? And especially in a male-dominated field, right? The Indian culture, occasionally, historically, the way I was raised, is very apologetic, very, community focused, right? And I apologize for practically everything. It's just sort of who I am. It's how I was raised. And walking into IT and recognizing and owning that it's okay to have my cultural nuances, and that's actually a strength to the table, helped me navigate a traditionally male-dominated field, but with my own style, my own technique, with just my own way. So the strategies very simply were I wasn't apologetic about my approach, right? Yes, I was apologized for being late to a meeting. I apologized for being rushed, right? But I didn't apologize for who I was. I didn't apologize for my strengths. And I always focused on doing the right thing. And I looked at everyone as equals no matter what the gender was. And I looked for allies no matter who or what their gender was. And I respected people and their cultural differences as I would want them to respect me. And when there was any form of disrespect happening, I pulled people aside, but I never stopped trying. My grandmother had a saying, and it translates to, if you reach for the moon and you catch a star, have you lost anything? And I always remembered that in the sense that I'll go reach for the moon, I'll go try for this, I'll go try for that, I'll volunteer here. And if I get a star and that star makes me happy, then great. And then if I need a new star, let's go look for the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. My husband keeps telling me, if you don't ask, then you can't get it. You need to go out there and ask for the things that you want. And be honest about who you are. I think previously women tried to make themselves more like their male counterparts so that they could be accepted. And now I see us more being ourselves and understanding that what we bring to the table has as much value and a better value than if we try to pretend to be something that we're not. So yeah, absolutely, that really resonates with me for sure. Lana, how about you? What are some suggestions on how to create that space in a male-dominated industry?
Oh, Jennifer, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Sorry.
No, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to know that I'm not the only one thinking this way, and that more women are coming around to just being authentic. We don't have to conform to male or female attributes. And at the end of the day, I think one of the most important tips that I've employed in my life is ensuring that I don't subscribe to those divisions, and that I don't promote those divisions, because we have a whole breadth of experience that we are bringing with us, and so do men, and we get muted. Actually, maybe equally, actually, I would dare say, as men do when it comes to the fullness of their experience, because there are many things that men aren't supposed to do. They're not supposed to cry. They're not supposed to be emotional. They're not supposed to do any of these things. And here we are. We're not supposed to be. I've been told I'm too emotional. I've been told I'm not logical enough. I've been told I'm too logical. And so the tip is just to be authentic. It doesn't matter what industry you're going into. What matters is how you affect people, and how you give to people, because that will affect how they give back to you. And if you want to build a career, you have to build bridges. You can't burn them along the way. Whatever you need to do to be authentic to yourself and to be a true helpmate and a teammate and a true advocate for yourself as well through the whole process of building your career is the most important thing, I think, because it touches on everything that you do. Your philosophy, your work ethic, your end product of any project that you're on. It colors everything. So believing in and knowing your worth is absolutely crucial to being able to build a career in any industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the thoughts that keep you up at 2 a.m., those scenarios that run through your mind that you're like, oh, I wish I'd have handled that differently. For me, a lot of those are the times when I wasn't authentic to myself. I tried to be something or present something that wasn't really me. And I find the more that I'm me in my work environment, the better my decisions are and the more confident I am with the work that I put out there.
The other
Um,
thing I've done in the tech industry, sorry,
no, go
just
for it.
to really quickly piggyback is instead of being afraid to tell people that I don't understand, I ask them to talk more about it. And I ask them to share their knowledge with me. And if you approach it from that way, at least in my experience, I've received less of the, oh, it's a woman, she doesn't know what she's doing. It's a, oh, she's interested. Okay, let me teach you about it. And then I get all the information I need and then some. The next time I don't have to ask as many questions.
Absolutely.
May I add to that?
Yes, please.
It's so I totally agree on the authenticity, but it's when you approach communication on your terms, right? And not quieting. So there's sometimes in some scenarios where there's this uncertainty. Should I say something? Should I not? If you're thinking it, ask. Be bold. Be my mentor used to say, be loud and proud, but not in an abrasive way, but in your style. And that's what shines in building a career and just navigating the workplace. I would just also say, have a plan, right? I wanted desperately to be in project management after I learned about it in like 1900, right? I'll leave it at X. And I had to figure out how to get there from being a coder, right? So it took coming up with a plan, asking people and figuring it out. So, but now it's worth it. And I absolutely adore it. And so I would just say, never be afraid to come up with a plan. May not be the right one, but it's a start.
Absolutely. My grandfather-in-law used to say, make a decision. It might not be the right decision, but make a decision and start going. Because if you don't, you're stuck.
Exactly.
So what are some challenges that you personally experienced, you know, being a woman in this tech industry, and how have you overcome those, Shelley?
Having to fit into someone else's expectations for me and politely reframing those. So, for example, and I remember the day at a company many decades ago, while I reported to the CIO, I was also the only female in a meeting. And at the end of the meeting, the CIO turned to me and asked me to clean the room up for everybody. How do you respond to that, right? That's an interesting scenario. But I paused and took a deep breath because I will tell you, I wanted to just go, what? Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
And I simply said, I'd love to help us clean up this room. Maybe we can all take a little bit of it and do this together. So-and-so, would you mind helping out? And why don't you grab this? And I just sort of turned it into a team effort, and we all straightened up the room.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That knee-jerk reaction of, oh no, you didn't, is, you know, hard to get over, hard to suppress. But yeah, that's a fantastic way to turn that around, of saying, hey everybody, we need to clean, he's right, we need to clean this up. Let's take care of our own mess, our own responsibility. That's fantastic. Lana, how about you?
I had a similar setup when I was thinking about this, about being the only woman in a room. That's really, really tough. And so I've been in situations where being the only woman in the room, I'm either not acknowledged or not even talked to. Or when I do talk, I actually, excuse me, have had experienced several times where when I do actually talk, they will turn to my male counterpart to ask the follow-up question or to verify what I just said. And that was really, really tough. And, you know, you just, I'm actually very, very quiet and very introverted. So this panel is you know, completely out of my element. But when things like that would happen, I would just wait so that I could hear what their concern is, and then I would reiterate again whatever it needed to be done, and kept it about the data, about the concern, rather than taking it personally. It isn't easy to do, especially when you are traditionally less assertive. I grew up in a culture where women didn't take leadership roles. My father was actually told by other men in my ethnicity that his daughters were too outspoken, and that he would never get us married off because you were too outspoken. And so even with that phrasing, with that as background, I was still considerably less assertive in the workplace at the start of my career than I am now. And I really had to learn how to just take a deep breath. You know, I get to work with Shelley often, and she is fantastic at things that, like, she just gave an example of. And in the short time that I've worked with her, she's taught me so much about how to be graceful in those situations. And so now, you know, it helps me to remember to take a deep breath and find a way to redirect it in a healthy way. And so, you know, I think that's one of the biggest challenges. And then I would say that another large challenge about women in any work actually is fighting against the stigma, because I am a mother, that I should be home raising my child, not in the workplace. That is a really difficult challenge that I've had to face. I live in a very conservative state, and so that has been something that I've had to actively work to help people understand that it's not a dichotomy. Being a professional and being a parent is not a dichotomy, and it is not just a woman issue or a mother issue. Fathers need to be present at home too, and so it's a parent issue. I think those are probably my two largest challenges.
Yeah, thank you for being on the panel and for talking. You're doing a fantastic job. So really appreciate everything. And yeah, you know, it's difficult to be looked at as, oh, well, if we give somebody this promotion, they're going to have to travel more, but she's got kids at home. Should she be out traveling? Well, that shouldn't be a part of that decision. You know, that's up to the person on how they can manage that. So yeah, there's definitely views that people take of women that are mothers, and even women that aren't mothers. You know, if you're a professional and you don't have kids, well, why not? You know, shouldn't you be having kids now? You know, so it seems a lot of the time that we just can't win, you know. But taking that deep breath and going, all right, we can address this gracefully. I love that term, you know, being able to gracefully approach those situations and diffuse them. So those are fantastic examples, and learning from other women. You know, the point of this group is addressing those concerns and learning what other people do in those situations, so that we can emulate the things that really resonate with us. One of the things that I've found is having a strong male ally in your department or in the industry can really help you with your perspective and your understanding of how people approach you and the role. Lana, do you have a kind of a strong male ally that you work with to partner in these situations?
You know, I'm going to answer that question a little bit broadly, Jennifer. I've been really, really fortunate in my experience throughout my entire experience to have really wonderful male allies and mentors the whole way. I don't think I've ever had a job where I didn't have a strong male ally. And I know that there are many women who probably can't say that. There are probably a lot of people who can't say that through their entire career they've had a strong mentor and ally. The male allies, what sets them apart for me is they really, really believe in me. They help me grow my career. They help develop me professionally. They mentored me. Helped me know my material, learn my material, introduce me to other people that would help me gain the relevant expertise or consult the correct expertise in whatever I was researching. And they were really give me credit where credit is due. So they were never afraid to say, no, Lana didn't do this. I didn't do this. And so those two things already made me extremely fortunate. But the third thing that they did, that my male allies did for me that was really, really important is they would actually defer to me in front of people. If I was listening and it was my job, it was my approval, my assessment, it was my work that was going to allow something to happen or not happen, they would defer to me. Lana is an expert. I defer to her. Lana is Lana, what do you need to do to help you? How can you get the information you need? How can I support you? How can I raise you up, and it's so I was extremely fortunate in that, and then I also had they were very protective of me, and one of the things that they did I appreciated was they didn't always they would openly they would I learned later that when they recognize in some cases when they recognize mistreatment, they knowing the sensitivity, recognize the sensitivity of the cause backlash, they made sure they do it publicly. They were very professional. They did it behind the scenes so that it preserved the professional dynamic of the group. When it was appropriate, they would do it publicly or more openly. But when you're dealing with fairly sensitive things, sometimes it needs to be taken behind closed doors. And so my allies were incredible advocates for me. I actually still talk to all of them, even though they're retired.
That's fantastic. And yeah, having somebody that understands that sensitivity and that balance that's needed to preserve your professional relationships with the people that you're working with is really important and vital. And being able to find those people is, like a diamond in the rough. It's amazing being able to identify and partner with those kinds of people. So that's fantastic that you have those. Shelley, how about you?
When I was thinking about what Lana was sharing, my life has had I've had my share of male allies in the workplace, but they may not have always been in leadership roles, and they came in the most unlikely scenarios. so all of the traits that Lana exemplified, provided one-on-one coaching, was a sounding board, helped navigate the politics, provided advice, deferred to me in meetings, that happens. But I would not say that they were like, they ever had a moment where they said, Shelley, I'm your champion and I'm going to be your male ally. They were people that were in the they were teammates, right? They were maybe peers. They were maybe people who I had to work with in another department that were a couple lower levels. My junior, some were even senior when I think back to my career, and I know I'm generalizing, but hindsight being 2020, what I'm realizing is my allies were my partners in goodness, as I call it, right? They're the people who help champion the work and get things done and to help advocate for me because it was the right thing to do at the right time rather than based off of gender association.
Yeah, you want somebody that is genuinely in your corner and wanting to help and promote you instead of somebody that's doing it to check a box. So having that trust and that back and forth relationship, it doesn't matter if it's a senior level or somebody that's 5 levels under you. Having that support and that understanding is what we all need. So I definitely encourage everybody on this call to look around and identify those people that are supporting you, either blatantly or subtly, because there are people out there for you. It's just sometimes hard to recognize them.
Hi, Jennifer.
Yes.
I actually have a quirky little thing I do to help promote people like that and let them know I recognize them. I do 2 things. One is around an American holiday known as Thanksgiving, where we focus on what we're grateful for. And Lana's been the recipient of this. I do a quirky little thing that I pause and I think about all my coworkers, my peers, anyone I worked with throughout the year, and I send them a little thank you note of why I'm grateful for them and working with them and just their partnership throughout the year. Because one, it's sincerely what I feel and I want to thank people and want to recognize them. But 2, it's a great reminder for me about all the goodness that I have in my life, especially at that time. It's the season of reflecting and giving thanks in the US. The second time I do that, just to keep my mood more optimistic and positive, because there can be so much negativity in our dailies, right? It's every month I take a pause and I go, who's helped me this month? And I send them a quick note thanking them for their help and recognizing the help that they've given me. I know it's just one person and it's only once a month, but it helps them know that I see them despite, no matter what gender association they might have, as well as if it's someone who's really notable, who's gone above and beyond, I might even forward that email or write an email directly to their manager, letting their manager know how awesome they are, just to really spread the goodness. So those are some ways that I've helped just build partnership and across a company and just build that team of teammates and allies and peers.
I love that. Yeah, sometimes we get so just focused on our day-to-day work, and we never pick our heads up and look around and see what's impacting what we do. So taking that time to consciously look for the good and the people that are there and supporting us and recognizing that, it lifts your mood too. I mean, it's great to recognize them and acknowledge them. And when I've received those, I feel fantastic. But it also helps you recognize that, hey, we're not alone out here. we've got a lot of people that are helping us do this day to day. That's fantastic. I love that. So Shelley, you talked about kind of recognizing and promoting other people around you. How do you do that for yourself?
So I feel like I'm on the moment of truth or dare. So
It's a
I
hard
know
one.
it. I know it doesn't appear that way, but I am naturally an introvert too, right? And I found myself many years ago, more, almost 10 now, successfully having led a $247 million transformational effort with 330 people reporting to me. That's a huge accomplishment on by any standard, but the fact that we ended like 3 months early and 1% under budget was huge. That was like I was like pinching myself going, is this real and did this really happen? And I don't share that story to say how great I am, because seriously I'm not. But what I share is the story that came out of it. We meant to celebrate it, and I was being recognized for the accomplishment at the organization. And I said, I don't deserve it. It was the team, right? And the person I reported to at the time, she was an SVP over the division. She said, Shelley, if you do not learn to stand up and take a bow now, you never will. You have done amazing work in pulling together these people in this team. Be loud and proud. And that has stuck with me. And so when I talk about ensuring I personally receive the credit we deserve, is yes, I recognize my team and their contribution and give them the kudos, but I also let people know my part in pulling them together, my part in supporting them. And even if it's one-on-one with my leadership, just saying, hey, just wanted you to know this is how I enabled this work, right? When I'm working as an individual contributor, because I run projects day to day on my own as well, right? And I'll say, I'm the PM and I'm proud of it, right? It's accepting that we all have an equal seat at the table.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, when you're in charge of a team that does such amazing work, you want to put the focus on the team because they've worked their butts off to get to that level. But we need to remember that we're part of that team too. So we need to embrace the fact that we've done this work too. That's a fantastic point. Lana, how about you? What are some of the things that you do to promote yourself?
You know, I really have a hard time promoting myself. It's one of the hardest things for me to do. What drove it home for me on being able to promote myself and just taking the praise and the compliment and actually telling people, you know, I did this. I helped lead this. I did this particular task of work is actually when I have a 12-year-old at home, and I was telling her to be proud. I was praising her for something she did, and she completely shrank back from it. And that's when I realized if I'm not loud and proud about my accomplishments, how do I expect her to be? If I'm not exemplifying that for her, how do I tell her that it's important? Because it obviously isn't important to me if I can't do it, right? And it's unfortunate that it's taken me so long to be able to toot my own horn, but now I am able to say, hey, you know what, we did this project and these were the difficult pieces, and this is what I did to help smooth the way. These are the roadblocks I helped address. These are the improvements that we made. So it's getting easier for me, but it's hard for me to toot my own horn. I really have to work on it. I don't have any problem tooting other people's horns. but it is hard for me, I have to admit.
Yeah, I think I'm in that same boat. You know, I find it really easy to shine the light on other people because I see what they're doing and think it's amazing. And when people shine that light on me, I kind of go try to redirect it. You know, well, yeah,
Yeah.
I was part of this team and they did this stuff too. So let's look over here. But as a parent, I find a lot of the hard lessons that I learn about how I want to be, I find mirrored in my children, you know. So I want them to be strong and confident and outgoing, but if I don't exemplify that for them, how are they going to see how to follow that path? So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of the lessons that I learn on how I want to be, I take from how I want to mirror or exemplify for my kids. So, Lana, outside of Avanti, are there other programs or communities that you're a part of to help you get that knowledge in the industry and elevate your role?
So when I thought about this, I actually thought about it in a slightly different way. For me, I love my job. I love the field of privacy. I think it is vital and it is important, and it's kind of, it's not kind of, it is also a kind of a social justice cause for me. And so what I'm actually focusing on outside of the industry is to elevate privacy as a whole. Um, I do a lot of community outreach with kids and with schools. I participate in career days. I participate in Ask Me Anythings, in career forums and things like that, and just do education on privacy as a whole, because it's really difficult to change adult behavior with privacy. We're a lot more um, stuck in our ways, I guess. And
Can't
kids are
teach an
so
old dog new
malleable.
trick.
Well, you can. It just takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a lot of work for me to change myself, right? I'm old. Um, so I spend a lot of time actually with kids and educating kids on privacy and what it means, um, and how they can have safer habits, and so that they can protect themselves appropriately. And it's wonderful to see that this there's a lot of change happening with the younger generation, and it's so exciting. It's wonderful. The breath of fresh air is amazing, and so that's where I spend most of my non-Avanti time.
That's fantastic. And yeah, you know, being able to share that knowledge that you've gleaned through your work with people outside of your work environment really kind of gives you a warm fuzzy that, hey, I'm doing work that impacts a lot more than just my job. So that's fantastic that you have that opportunity. Shelley, how about you? Are there other organizations or projects that you're part of outside of Avanti?
The good thing about project management is it applies to every industry, even outside of tech. So I spend a lot of time just volunteering for nonprofits in like a PM role, quite literally. So I bring my trade to basic nonprofits. Like there's one where it's a social justice cause focused on trying to end human trafficking. And so they needed someone to help project manage building a website for them. I don't know how to build a website. Well, I could back in the day, but I know how to run a project. So help them get quotes, did all that, right? The other thing that I do besides just using my skills in the nonprofit world is I teach. Just like Lana, I love to share what I've learned so people don't have to repeat the hard lessons that I learned, because I learned the hard way. And so I teach classes and really love learning from my students about how things should be done differently. And so while I'm teaching them what I know, their questions challenge me to think about things differently. And we brainstorm to a better way of doing things. And that's what I love about just giving back in the community and teaching and sharing. Because when I hear the different points of view, I learn to tune my craft to be better, just kind of like Lana had said.
Yeah, I think being open to hearing those challenging questions and thoughts and ideas really drive what you do every day. You know, if you're not open to other points of view, you again, you really can't proceed forward in what you're doing. So and those different points of view can open up paths and directions that you had no idea you wanted to explore. So that's fantastic. And doing it in the community with, you know, the youth, I find that they have such a larger world view than I did at their age. It's fantastic to see and understand where they're coming from. So what kinds of pressure, you know, looking at that work-life balance that we all try to maintain but always seem to miss somehow, what kinds of pressure do you feel to maintain a work-life balance? You know, is it coming from the home? Is it coming from the office? Is it coming from yourself? Lana, can you speak to that a little bit?
Oh, I think everyone's worst critic is themselves, right?
Mhm.
um, I know that the pressures I feel related to work-life balance primarily start with me. I know I have felt, and I've that I can't step back from work and have those appropriate healthy boundaries because, you know, I'm a woman and I can't appear, you know, weak or less attentive or less dedicated than my male counterparts, and that's just silliness. I have learned the very hard way that implementing and maintaining appropriate boundaries is actually a sign of strength. Healthy boundaries really translates into the strongest supporting statement you can make about your self-discipline, about your confidence in your knowledge and your confidence in your ability. It's a testament to your ability to actually work efficiently. The healthy boundaries just aren't beneficial to me. It allows my company, it allows anybody I'm interacting with to also benefit from my performance when I'm uh, at my peak, especially during you know, periods of increased demand, because I'm coming from a full reservoir. I'm not completely burnt out. I'm not just dragging myself out of bed like I just did 16 hours. You know, I've been there, I've done that. Not too long ago, actually, um, my son came to me and he said, "Mom, do I need to put time on your work calendar to see you?" And I was like I just stopped. I almost wanted to start crying. I was like, my son is saying this to me. And then I stepped back and I realized I was working 7 days a week, um, 10 to 12 to 16 hours a day because I needed to get all of these things done. And I just thought, really? Um, so it really was at that point in time, me establishing healthy boundaries. Because even at the time, even my boss was saying, "You got to step away." And I was like, "I got to get this done. I got to get this done." And so some of it is, a lot of it is me taking responsibility for my health and disciplining myself to prioritize balance in all areas. And work-life balance isn't just about time away. It's about making the time to eat healthy, to get your sleep, to get some exercise, to have some downtime and exercise self-care. It's all kinds of things that you have to employ to actually balance work and life. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of intent.
Absolutely. Yeah, that intent to stay disciplined and to maintain that balance is a struggle for sure. So for those of you that are listening, if you can put into the chat, what are some ways that you guys maintain that work-life balance? You know, how do you make sure that you maintain a reservoir for yourself so that you're not running on empty all the time? Or can you do that? Shelley, what are some of the ways that you maintain that life balance, work-life balance?
So I should just wait for the chat to fill up and read that, right?
Yeah, right. So I'm still trying.
So the short answer is I too, Lana, had to wrestle with that same question, especially with the start of the pandemic and going 100% remote, right? Because it was like I was always working in the beginning, and it was really allowing myself and giving myself permission to step away, being intentional to disconnect. So yes, there are days of hiccups where, there for a specific period, there might be excessive time of work, but, closing my computers, not starting my computer or looking at my email before, you know, 6 a.m. Pacific, because I'm in the West Coast, and 6 a.m. is awfully early, right? At least for me.
Yep.
And so the pressure originally was always be on, always be there, always be present, always take care of my team, be there for them. But as Lana mentioned, as my reserves started getting depleted at the start of the pandemic, I wasn't able to be there for them. I wasn't able to support them. And I was getting, I was just getting agitated and I was getting fussy, like, like a kid that needed a nap. And so then it really forced me to take a step back, examine my work-life balance practices, and some days they're better than others, some days they're not, but also being comfortable with it's good enough. One of my favorite quotes is, quality is what you do when no one is looking, followed by the second quote, which is 80% is fine. It will be okay. And what that means is I don't have to get it to 100% perfect. I can get it to the best I can for the time that I have and then just move on, and being okay with that. And I really find that by really extending grace to myself, taking care of my own self-care, time alone, reading a book, going for a walk, playing with my dogs, whatever it is, has really made me more present to my family, right? To be able to hear them, to my friends, to my peers. Like if they're having a rough day, I can hear the change in their voice now where I can go, hey, is something going on? Do you want to talk about it? If it's in an appropriate setting, to pull them aside one-on-one, right? But before, when I was just running full throttle, I don't think I could have done that. And that's what work-life balance has brought me. It has brought me the ability to be more present. And that's what I love.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things as we get further into leadership, we want to work more and control more and own more. But one of the things we need to realize is that the people on our team and the people observing us, if they see us working 12, 16-hour days, 7 days a week, they're going to be like, well, we probably need to do that too. So you're setting that example. And if you're feeling burnt out, probably the other people on your team are too. So we need to really be cognizant of that, that the better we maintain that example of a work-life balance, the more we can help others to see the need and the benefit of doing that as well. So
Is it okay if I add just two quick
absolutely.
little things that I do? Work-life balance, I think it really is, like you were saying, the responsibility of your leaders to set the example. What I do with my team very intentionally is I ensure that we are cross-trained. I've worked on teams before where everyone was very siloed and they owned their work and they did not let it go and they didn't share their knowledge. And if they left, it would leave with them. So I am adamant about cross training because part of the reason people can't do the work-life balance is because they feel like if they take time away, it's all going to fall apart because they're the only one who does their job. And then they're afraid to take time off and they're afraid to even just leave for a couple hours and practice self-care. And so cross-training is crucial on my team. It's a must. And it allows them to actually say, I need to take time away and I know that everything's not going to fall apart because I can just ask so and so to support me and I don't need to worry about whether or not they know how to do it. I don't need to train them before I go. We're just all on the same page and can move forward as a team. And the other thing I encourage them to do is to turn their phone off. Turn it off. When you are done for the day, turn it off. And if I'm emailing you off of hours, do not respond to me. If it is urgent, I will find a way to contact you. If I'm working and you're not working, or because I have to catch it because I just came back from holiday, does not mean that you need to respond to me on Sunday night at 8 o'clock when I'm looking at my calendar, trying to understand what I'm coming back to. If you need, I respect their time. I absolutely make sure that they know. If I have to pull them into something later, I make sure I ask them if they are available for it, so that they can feel like they actually own their time and I'm not usurping their personal time. That boundary of respect is really important on a leadership level, I think. Extremely cognizant of it on my part.
And it's also, so from a leadership level, it's watching. I have some amazing, gifted, talented individuals who just are passionate about their work. And when I see them not exemplifying work-life balance, and I've set the expectation that that is our goal, because to me, that is the goal, right? I want people to bring their best, however their best is defined, because it's on a personal level. But if I see them going above and beyond and it's like after hours for them, and it's, let's say they're in EMEA, so the British time zone as an example, and it's 10 p.m. and they're on a call, I'll politely one-on-one, during a one-on-one or via Teams one-on-one directly to them say, hey, I appreciate your dedication, but please, we'll record the call. You can get caught up and I'll sync up with you offline. It's okay. I give people permission to step away, and I set the expectation that I want them to step away, and then I follow up on it. One time it was a crunch time for a project and most of my team was working, and it was a Friday at like dark hour on the Pacific and most are on the East Coast. And I said, I see you all still working. I don't know if I should feel sad that no one listens to me and doesn't practice work-life balance, but I'm going to log off. And I hope you log off too. And I use a little emoji and a little cartoon to make it funny, right? I use little things like that, and I'm present and I watch and I recognize. But on the flip side, when I see someone who has to go above and beyond for a specific reason, I will ask them, how do we balance this out? What can I do to ensure that you're not over allocated going forward? It's being open to have that healthy dialogue. Like, do you have too much on your plate? Is this just, 1 week, 2 weeks? Do we need to get some help in this effort? And it's not being afraid to treat emotional, physical, mental well-being, whole person well-being, as I call it, as a priority, because when a whole person is well, the work is just awesome.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think, it's the whole package. Leadership needs to be able to say, look, we as a company strive for a good work-life balance, and we want our employees to exemplify that, and here's the way we're doing that. But if that leader doesn't also practice having a good work-life balance, it's hard to get that message across. So, being able to respect your own boundaries and say, this is when I'm working, this is when I'm not, that shows everybody in the company that, as a leadership, we really mean it. We really want you to have that work-life balance because we want to have that work-life balance. That's fantastic. Um, so final question, because we got just a couple minutes left, and I want people to put in the chat as well and answer it there. What's one thing that you do to practice self-care, when you're at the end of the day or in the middle of your day and you're like, this is it, this is my level, I've reached it. How do you practice that self-care to recharge your batteries? Lana, go ahead and we'll start with you.
Oh man. Um, well, I actually schedule, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I do. I actually schedule one-on-one time with myself, and I honor it.
That's
I
fantastic.
make sure I make sure that I schedule nothing above it or beside it or over it, or I honor my one-on-one time with myself now. I have to. Because we're a global organization and because I have to address issues as they come up because they are time sensitive. It really, I don't have the luxury of imposing a specific time work schedule on myself. So when I have that one-on-one time with myself, or I also do one-on-ones with my children, and then even with, I know it sounds silly, but with my partner on a daily basis, where I remind myself to spend 30 minutes with them, or spend, remember to text them or call them or whatever, because that's how I recharge my batteries. And with my one-on-one time, I do actually schedule a very long one-on-one time because I recently found a new hobby, and I make time to do that new hobby every day. um, so that's paramount, absolutely paramount. I don't infringe anymore on my one-on-one time.
It's fantastic. How about you, Shelley?
So Lana, I'm going to borrow the one-on-one time idea. I love it.
Right? Yeah.
I think it's awesome. For me, it is I meditate. I start my day in meditation and focused time, and then I end it that way. And that's my one, my go-to, right?
Excellent. Yeah. Finding ways to just kind of center yourself in the moment. Definitely. Oh, well, we have 8 minutes left, and as I said, we have a gift for everybody on the call. Shannon, it's your turn. Oh,
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording first. Perfect. All right. All right. So we decided that since it is International Women's Day, we wanted to do something special for everybody who joined the call and who was able to attend. And we are going to actually send this book, She Thinks Like a Boss. We're going to send this out in a Kindle version to everybody that has attended. And that's partners and Evante employees. So it's everybody. Yeah, as our thank you for joining the call today and listening in. The book is actually touches a lot on what we discussed today, so it's kind of like a perfect ending. So yes, thank you, everyone.
Lana and Shelley, I want to thank you both so much for joining the call and for talking and sharing the insight that you guys have. I think that you've brought up and addressed a lot of the issues and the struggles and, you know, the kind of some of the insidious thoughts that we all have, you know, during the workday and as we go through our career, and understanding how you guys deal with those and navigate some of those trickier situations gives everybody some good insight and some food for thought on what we can do to ourselves to navigate those. So thank you both so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody that joined the call. We will be having another meeting in February for our women in, or not February, in April for our women in IT group. So please be on the lookout for that invite coming to you probably in the next couple of weeks. We'll get that organized and the agenda set for that. If you have any questions, we've got our meeting pulse that is still up and running. If you want to join the conversation there, there's some topics on, you know, how do you deal with burnout? How can we self-promote? So sharing those ideas and suggestions on what works for you can really help other women in the group. And finally, I just want to say, take some time today for that self-care. You know, pet your dogs, go for a walk, turn your phone off, whatever you need to do to recharge your batteries and center yourself back in you. Take some time today for yourself. Thank you again, everybody that joined. Fantastic conversation, and I hope to see you next time. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was great to
Thanks.
hear what you all had to say.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.